He had to move on, to continue to honor his mother's wishes and carry out her plans. The crunch of leaves had him jerking around, coming face to face with Silvia, the woman he hadn't seen since their one-night stand. Silvia had stood back beneath the covering of a lush tree and watched as Nick clearly had a private moment over his mother's grave. He'd pulled an envelope from his pocket and studied it for some time. Gripping her umbrella, Silvia decided she couldn't stand here forever like some stalker. She had to approach him now before she lost her nerve. For the past 5 days, she had tried to contact him, but then she'd learned about the death of his mother, and she knew the timing of her news couldn't be worse. She understood why he was not responding to her texts or calls. It hadn't been because she'd broken their promise to keep it to just one night. He was grieving. Just as he'd been that night, everything had changed. She wanted to go to him, to place a hand on his shoulder, to comfort and console. But everything was different now. They'd had a strong working relationship for the past few months, and then one night in his office, he'd broken down about his mother, and one thing led to another. There had been attraction building since day one, when he'd hired her as the lead architect for the renovation of his mother's resort. Being the professional she was, she had kept her erotic fantasies to herself. Until that night when she hadn't. Now look where that had landed her. How had she fallen for his charms? It wasn't as if she hadn't been charmed by men before. Maybe it was Nick's vulnerability that night. Perhaps, coupled with the impossible-to-ignore sex appeal, she'd really been fighting a losing battle. Silvia gripped the handle of her umbrella now and shoved her other hand into her jacket pocket. The spring rain and gray skies matched her mood as she took one courageous step and then another. Nick jerked around, his bright eyes met hers, and her mind instantly flashed back to that night they'd taken their business meeting from his leather office chairs to his oversized desk. She hadn't seen him since, but he'd always been in the forefront of her mind. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. Silvia had never seen him so dressed up. He typically wore jeans and a button-down dress shirt, but now he wore a charcoal suit with matching shirt and tie, his dark blonde hair perfectly styled, even in the rain, his usually scruffy jaw clean-shaven. And those glasses. No matter the anguish he was going through, those glasses stopped her cold. She'd knocked those dark frames off his face when she'd jerked his shirt over his head that night. "Focus, Silvia. You're not here for a reunion, and he's hurting." Neither of them could afford to get more involved than they'd been for those few hours. He'd disappeared after, and Silvia's heart ached for him during this loss. The timing of this little secret could not be worse. She'd never lied in her life, and she certainly wasn't about to start now, not even to save him from more shocking news. "I'm checking on you," she told him honestly. "I didn't want to smother you during the service. I saw so many people, and I don't really belong here, but I had to come." "Understatement." "I called and texted," she went on as the rain continued to pelt her umbrella. "I figured this was the only place we could talk." Droplets clung to his darkened hair, normally a dirty blonde when dry. He seemed oblivious to the fact that he stood before her absolutely soaked, with raindrops dotting his lenses. He still looked too damn good. "Talk?" Nick shook his head and removed his glasses. He wiped a hand down his face, flinging the moisture aside. "Work is going to have to wait. I know I was pushing for this project to be done, but—" "I'm not here about work." His eyes widened for a split second before his lips thinned. "We can talk in the car." Guilt tugged at her. He stood at his mother's casket saying his final goodbyes, and here she was demanding they talk. If her news weren't so life-changing, she wouldn't be here. "I can go wait in my car," she told him, then nodded toward the casket. "You take your time." She turned and walked away, not giving him a chance to argue or ask questions. She told them they had to talk, and he'd agreed. Now she and her bundle of nerves just had to go and keep each other company until he joined them. The moment she slid behind the wheel, Silvia closed her eyes and willed herself to remain calm. Getting worked up would not change the circumstances.